guys, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys. And today we are going to be talking about The Need by Helen Phillips. When I first picked this up off the shelf and kind of skimmed the blurb, I thought it was a home invasion story, and those can be very terrifying if you're looking for something a little spooky and a little thrilling. And it was a bit of that, but it turned out to be something else entirely. Now, as I'm going to be telling you about this story, I don't know how easy that's going to be, because it's the kind of story that to just sit and talk about it, it's going to sound crazy, and I know that. Because there's another author whose books I review on this channel. I've done 2 videos on him. His name's Ian Reid, and I've done book talks on his books I'm Thinking of Ending Things and Foe. I absolutely love the way he tells the story, but when you're sitting and just telling that story to someone, it sounds nuts. So this, I have a feeling, is going to be the same. And in fact, there was something about Helen Phillips and her writing and her tone and her storytelling that reminded me of Reid. But not in a bad way, not in a copycat sort of way. There was just that sort of vibe that I love about him, and I found it again in her. So, The Need. The Need, at its core, The Need is about parenthood, about motherhood, about that desire to want to be able to spend every moment with your child, but also the desire and the need to not do that. It's kind of an answer to the question, what if you could be in 2 places at once? Because there's something about parenthood, and again, especially mothering, that, you know, when you're not with your child, you want that child to be with someone who loves them as much as you do. But of course, as their mother, that's impossible to find, because no one loves their child the way that their mother does. So this book starts off and it grabs you by the throat from the first page. We start off with Molly, who is at home with her 2 small children, and she is in a room with them, and she hears footsteps inside of her house, and she's terrified, as you would be. But there's also a part of her that's kind of like, do I hear footsteps? Because you guys, she's exhausted, she's tired, she's overworked, she's sleep deprived. Her husband is out of town, and she's just kind of had it. She's done. She's reached her limit of giving. And so then she kind of thinks, well, maybe I didn't hear anything, but then she's like, no, I did. I heard something. Towards the beginning too, we also learn that Molly has a very interesting job. She's a paleobotanist, which means that she studies plants from back in the day, like fossils. She digs up fossils for plants. And she's found this place to work called the Pit. And it's an operation where they're digging and they're finding fossils. And while they're digging there, they start to find fossils that no one's ever found before. They're finding things that don't exist. And aside from like plant fossils that don't exist, they're finding other things that versions of exist in our world, in our reality, but the ones she's finding are just kind of off. Like, she finds an Altoids tin that's the wrong shape. She finds a Coke bottle that like has the wrong label. And then kind of the big find is she finds a Bible, but in the Bible the pronouns are changed. And instead of referring to God as a him, God's referred to as a her. And all these finds are really freaking her out, and it gets to the point that she calls the Bible company to see if a Bible has ever been accidentally printed with the opposite pronouns. She's just a little shaken, you know, as you would be, finding all of these things. So back in her house, eventually her children, who again are very small, one's like a baby and then one's like a toddler kind of. Ben is his name and Viv is hers. So at one point, Molly tries to send Viv out into the hallway to go into the closet and grab a bat, she tells her. And Vivian goes, but she comes back with a stuffed bat, like a little toy bat. Because of course to her childlike mind, that must be what her mom wanted. But of course her mom wanted a baseball bat to use as protection against the intruder. Another thing about this story is it's really hard to talk about it without spoilers, because the first kind of big twist comes fairly early on in the book. So if you don't want any spoilers, we're gonna do this real early on in this video, I know, but if you don't want spoilers for a story that is definitely a lot of surrealism, a lot of weirdness, a lot of confusing things that in the end kind of make sense, and you're gonna be left with some unanswered questions. If you like stories that really make you think and make you wildly uncomfortable, I would definitely recommend The Need. I will say by the time I got to the end of it, and even as I was nearing the end, I didn't know if I liked it. I wasn't 100% sure. It made me feel, like I said, wildly uncomfortable, but at the same time, it kept the pages turning. It took me about 2 days to get through this. It's not a overly long book. It's about 260 pages, but that first night I was reading it, it kept me up. I was compulsively just turning those pages, and you know what? Even if I wasn't entirely satisfied with the ending, the fact that it kept me turning the pages is a testament to what kind of a storyteller Helen Phillips is. So I would recommend the book. It's not going to be for everyone, I know that for sure, but if you've read any of Ian Reid and you liked his stories, then maybe it'll be for you. And if not, and you like things that are strange and surrealist, I guess would be the best way to put it, then definitely check this out. So for the rest of you guys who do want some of the spoilers, let's get on into it. So she doesn't manage to get the weapon from her daughter as she had hoped to. And so at this point she can see that the intruder is in the living room, and the intruder is wearing a mask. And it's a mask that her husband had actually given to her, or made for her and then given to her, and it's a deer head. And so when she sees this intruder wearing the deer head that belongs to her, she sees that the intruder's holding a book, and it's a book that her and her daughter have been looking for all evening because her daughter wanted it read to her. So seeing the book, it makes her daughter run up to the intruder and grab the book and bring it back to the mother. So the mom opens the book, and inside is a list of instructions, and one of the instructions is when the babysitter comes at 7, I think it's 7, you're to come outside to the car, get in the car, and you better do it because you're going to regret it if you don't. So time passes, she gets the kids put in bed, and then the babysitter arrives, and then she goes outside, and sitting in the car is her. An exact replica of herself. And needless to say, she's very startled, as she would be, and the woman herself starts telling her that she came through the pit where Molly's been working. That the pit is somehow a seam in the universe, kind of a portal between two different types of reality. And that's where all these things are coming from that are being dug up in the pit. They're coming from this other reality where those are the things. And so Molly, other Molly, who we will call Moll because that's what Molly calls her eventually, Moll has come through as well. And we learn that the reason she has come through, so I don't know if on the other side they know that this is a portal, whereas on our side we don't know, but I'm guessing not because there's not a ton of people coming through. I don't know. Anyway, Moll has come through because on her side, her children died. Her Ben and her Viv died in a very, very terrible kind of attack. She couldn't save them. And she's not having it. She doesn't want to live in a reality where her children are no longer around. She wants to come live in this reality where her kids are still alive. And Molly's like, well, they're my kids, so I don't know what to tell you. So Molly's kind of like, well, you know what we'll do is we'll take turns. I will watch them sometimes and you will watch them sometimes. And when one of us isn't watching them, like when you're off duty, you will go down into the basement. There's, you know, a bedroom down there. You can stay down there. There's a baby monitor down there. And I'll go down there when you're up with the kids. And there's something to it, to the sadness of it all, that makes Molly kind of go along with it. Because I could imagine there's a weird compassion and empathy that would come over you if you're looking at yourself, who has somehow traveled here from another dimension, and she's telling you that your children died in that other dimension, and clearly she's grieving and is willing to do anything to get to spend time with her kids. And that's kind of the gist of the entire story. It's her dealing with her, I don't want to say doppelganger because it's more than that. It's her dealing with herself as a traveler. But what's more, and what's kind of another layer of this story, is that throughout the story, you never know if it's real or imagined. You never know if this is actually happening to Molly, or if the, you know, lack of sleep and jam-packed days are taking their toll on her mental stability. You never truly know. When we get to the end, that's what I think has happened, because there's kind of a merging of the two Mollys at one point, right at the very end, before the epilogue. There's a merging together of the two of them in a way that's very uncomfortable. There are so many points in this book that just make me feel really weird. And I don't mean that necessarily as a criticism. When you read a book, you want to feel things. And you kind of especially want to feel different things. So, yeah, again, not necessarily a criticism, just kind of a thing. I feel uncomfortable when I read some of it. But, so my takeaway is that maybe a lot of it, if not all of it, kind of happened in Molly's mind. But, you know, that's just kind of the way I look at it. I'm sure there are plenty of others that have different takes on it. And if you have read it, I would absolutely love to hear what you took from it. And we can have a talk about it. That'd be fun. Again, I don't want to go too much more into the small details of the book, because it's one of those stories that's just so hard to speak to someone in a compact amount of minutes. You kind of need a ton of time to talk about it. But yeah, I enjoyed this, even though there were times when I didn't know if I did, but I did. I just saw a blurb on the back that called it both unsettling and irresistible, and I think that's a great way to describe it. So yeah, there you go, you guys. That's The Need. So there you go, you guys. That's The Need by Helen Phillips. I'd love to hear what you thought of it. And again, I do wholeheartedly recommend it. And yeah, would love to know what you think if you read it. So you guys, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you've had a great week. And I hope you're enjoying, you know, the kind of final days of summer. I can't believe summer's almost over. So I will see you guys on Monday with, I think, a Tea Talk video. It's either going to be another paranormal video or a Tea Talk video. Those are the two that are going to be Monday and Wednesday's videos coming up, so I just don't know which order they're going to be in yet. And yeah, take it easy, guys. Bye.